Thank you, dear viewers. This is a very good night, much as late night, but very productive for us before you sleep. This is the information you must go with. And if anything, you're in position to partner with us in this, awareness creation agenda. Please, you can join us, support us, be with us. But to be with us viewing this program is in itself very important. We are together still with, Dr. Muganga Lawrence, who is taking us through the opinion and the variable recommendations which we will be now dealing with to look at how best we can appreciate the human capital development strategy as a key for Uganda to achieve a middle income status. And that will be now the climax of our talk. Doctor, it is quite some time when we've been, as a country of us, it's a good saying. When anyone comes and say, I'm going to make you a wealthier man, for sure you can be in love with that person. No one of us wants poverty. No one wants poverty. We have gone into some facilities where we go to our friends and differently and also maybe our own, but you feel admiring either one which is wealthier than yours, and you say, wow, this is very powerful. And when we are talking about the middle income status, a situation where we will not be talking about grass thatched houses, which are a bit, by the way, they are diminishing, because used to, to travel from here to the west, to the west, then to north, but north it was still having, especially in the east, was still having a challenge. But they're also picking up. The first time I went there, maybe I will go there very soon again. My observation as a researcher, I think there might be a difference. Even the road sector, the infrastructure development, by that time it was lower than what is done now. The issue of the quality of infrastructure, that's another story. Then we also talk about education. We are here reflecting on the dropout rate at 38%. That's a serious population by 2018. But again, by the time of 1996, those who could not even afford.
If you add in COVID, it is worse.
Yeah, it is worse. So the literacy rate, then you look at the poverty rate, the livelihoods, because middle income status is not just a name. It resonates with the livelihoods of the people.
Yeah, the real life.
The real life, how people are producing, how many sacks of beans are you producing? Because in most cases, I'm trying to be objective in this talk. Before you blame the government, but for you also, your land, which you are not cultivating, you are demanded according to this target of middle income status. You have 2 acres of land, but there are some who also don't have land, and this takes us back to issues of policy, to make sure that those who don't have land, how can they be able to access land? At times, the NRM government has come up with some promises, but not realized. There's a time when they had a plan to make sure that you can be able to get a land loan, where the landless can access land. Then when we get land, by research which I conducted in 2012, it used to reflect, I think there is a change because I've not updated the current information. I may maybe make a special one on that, the utilization of land. 12 million square kilometers, right? Million square kilometers. They were not utilized. 12 million. And that's a serious natural resource. So now, as we are emerging with these issues that I've mentioned, listing all of them, the capital development strategy, it must resonate with the environment. How are we shaping or utilizing the available, number one, natural resource, even if I don't talk about minerals, the land itself. Then number two, if the capital development we're talking about, can it be able to understand why a road is constructed, maybe from Agago to West Nile, maybe to here Ginger, then you reach to Kampala. So that if the human capital meaning in itself, this is capital, because there is liquid capital, now we are dealing with the human capital. So having seen all this, our dear guest, I believe there is still a lot desirable to be done. We have not yet achieved the middle income status, and we are digging into what has gone wrong. And at the climax of this, we are looking at other factors. Would you reflect on and educate on these factors that can either be dealt with and thereby recommend what maybe can be the next course of action by those who can really, who are patriotic enough to support Uganda agenda to achieve a middle income status.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tindiewa. Earlier, you alluded to something very, very important, and I want to pick it up from there. You talked about inclusive, equitable
Yes,
education,
yes, sir.
right? And as a target,
The goal,
the goal that we have to really accomplish. So I want to tell you, picking it up from there, that every region in this country is endowed differently. God created every part of Uganda with a purpose and differently. That's why sometimes they have, one region has what another region doesn't have. And so are the people also were created and endowed differently. So if that is very, very true, we have an education system that is a one-fits-all model that thinks that all the regions are the same, that people that come from those regions are the same. Now, can we work around our education to address the needs of every different region we have in this country? If your core strength is agriculture, how do we transform a child who has grown up looking at banana plantations, looking at their father picking coffee, and then we want to make them maybe what? MBA holders and going to occupy a particular office that doesn't even exist? Why can't we train them to actually promote their core business, which is agriculture? Now, if you move to another region, let's have an education that promotes those people to even become sophisticated with what they have been doing, commercialize it from subsistence to commercialization to even exportation of that particular commodity or that particular product they are making in that very region, right? So you talked about the skills revolution.
Yeah, the skills revolution.
All right? That is the revolution we are bringing in education. You know, you are a coffee grower. You are known. You are in Masaka, which other you are in Ankole side. You are everywhere they are growing coffee. How do we modernize that? And how can education, universities support that kind of, from primary, secondary, university? How do you support that region? Remember what I said, that the laboratory should not be housed in just in a house somewhere in a university. But the laboratory of such learners should be the community where they are going to do those things. They identify problems there and they become part of the solution. Then they are doing things. They are acquiring experience. And they are moving closer to the middle income because productivity becomes real, becomes intentional. If Karamoja, that area, is predominantly or dominated by cattle keeping, for example, how do we educate their children, boys and girls, to look at cattle keeping as something they can take from the subsistence practices to commercialization, massification of production in that area? Then it is intentional education. It is the skills revolution you talked about now. And when it comes to training, we should also rethink the accreditations, the credentials we give. Sometimes, maybe this is the time we have to think about micro-credentialing, where we are confronted with a situation where, because of technology, the shelf life of a skill is no longer even more than 7 years. You may know something today, but tomorrow, because of technology, it has changed, and you need to learn it again. So we are living in a situation, you talked about a lifelong learning. Yes. We are living in a situation where learning to unlearn is now compulsory. You have to be able, one of the most important attribute every human being should empower themselves with is be prepared to learn to unlearn. Because so many things we learn, the shelf life of those things gets expired, and you have to unlearn them and learn new things. So that's where we are. So if the shelf life of a skill is less than 7 years, then maybe you're not going to go back and do a degree of 3 years, because that's a wastage of too much time. And it will be I think it is discouraging to hear this from a vice chancellor who is discouraging people to go back and do a 3-year degree. Please don't do it if you have done one, because it's a wastage of time. But there are important other trainings. You can do in 3 weeks, you can do in a month, you can do in 2 months. And in the comfort of your home, with the advent of technology, we have platforms like Coursera, Udemy, name it.
Let me encourage someone 1 second.
Yes.
When I finished my first degree, Bachelor's of Arts, and also education, even in terms of profession, some of the professions, they don't need you to first have masters.
True.
Because that, like in administration, I was a bit, attached to it with the desire to serve the community, and I had already got a job in civil service. So what was required of, and this is relevant even those of social science, social work, social administration, I only needed a certificate of admin law to be a sub-county chief. And that was only 1 month at LDC.
Exactly.
And that one now is a professional skill in administration.
Correct.
My reasoning so that it's aligned with the law. That's why even when I'm here, because of that foundation, it is the law. Even if you've never met me or worked with you, you immediately understand that I have a background which is related with it.
And that is what I'm calling micro-credentials. Because the shelf life of skills dies in less than 7 years. What you know today, in the next 7 years, it may have changed. The economy may not need you because of technology. So, but what do you do to catch up? They are micro-credentials. Empower yourself or yourselves with these micro-credentials, what we call lifelong learning. Because those micro-credentials empower you with learning by doing, not by just imparting things in your head. I repeat this on a daily basis if I have been asked to, that an employer or even yourself who is trying to create something for yourself, you don't need what you know, because what you know, there is some important computing gadget with extensive power to tell you everything you know in your head. But what you need, what the employer needs, is what you can do with what you know. Therefore, you need micro-credentials to empower yourself, to be marketable, to be able to ensure that you can fit in any market, job market around the world, not just for Uganda. Train yourself, develop yourself to work anywhere in this world. Maybe create a situation where the only thing that can cut you off is language barrier. If you go to a country that doesn't speak the language you speak. But even that, the micro-credentials we are talking about, teach yourself to speak other languages, because they are programs, platforms that can teach you French, can teach you Chinese. It's just the willpower for you to learn something. So those micro-credentials will make you fit in an economy that we are in, and that is supposed to come in the future. Because the job of the future, we don't know it. Let no one tell you that they don't know it. Because anyone who lived here in 1999 would not have told you what we are seeing today. But so what is happening by 2030, we don't know. But the way you prepare yourself today, that is when you are going to be productive, and you'll feel good about yourself. You'll know that the rate of return on investment is something you're harvesting. by doing or participating in that kind of micro-credentialing system. So I encourage everyone to take that path.
Thank you. We will be finalizing with some recommendations. And the recommendations, they should be able to respond to these challenges which were extracted from also the World Bank report of 2019. The first one, which has caused our human capital to be of critical, of it to be in a critical situation, the human capital. The strategy, we are saying the strategy is good. But we have, number one, according to the report, that Uganda's human capital is characterized by low labor productivity, which is mainly attributed to, one, weak foundation for human capital. Two, lack of appropriate knowledge skills, which I had already talked about, and attitudes, right? Three, the poor population health and safety, how we are keeping our population in good health and the safety of our population, not succumbing, to unnecessary accidents, and you find people dying, in an unnecessary death, and you find we lose some people would have led to a revolution in this country. And also there is also another mention, which is poor population management. How do we manage our population? I'm not sliding to family planning, much as it's also important, but the poor population management. If you are at a family level and maybe beginning with a country that is responsible, how do we manage our population? And the last one, last but not least, limited social protection. We have some programs related with NSSF, so forth, for those who are workers, but do we have social protection for those who are workers and those who are not workers, to know that you have a life to live that can help you to not to languish in, helplessness situation. Helplessness situation where you go to the hospital and you don't have anyone to care, you don't have anything behind to take care of you. So there's some policies needed in this. Then the last one is lack of institutionalized and integrated human resource planning and development. And there's where I'm seeing the government needs to play a serious role. By the time there is a projection that by this time we are going to be 40 million, 69. What is the government already planning ahead? And they normally conduct, this research, the Uganda Bureau of Standards, the National Population Statistics, of which they come up with this projection. But how is the government project by this time? Either we should be doing things differently this way. Even in terms of establishing settlements. There's a country in East Africa where I moved, and for them they have taken a new land reform. There's where they have identified, this is where you are going to live, this is for agriculture. And I think they are planning for the future. There are some countries, of course, which have gone ahead of us. You cannot, like you are in a city, to construct any funny building that you wish to construct, even if it is your what? Even if it is your plot of land, because there is a planning for the future from now to 63 years ahead of us, where even the utilization of land policies is different. Kindly give us, your response and recommendation as we come to the close of our program.
But if I have to summatively respond to everything, the low labor productivity that is characterizing our population, the poor population management, and then the limited social protection. These countries you see that are called developed countries, they are there because their population has been developed and it is well managed. And they harvest taxes from these people to be able to create different safety nets, put them in place to the social protection to help them when need arises. And that is the same thing we should start doing. It's not something we can do in a single day, but we need to quickly begin to do something, invest significantly in our people. You talked about inclusive, equitable education. That if we can achieve that, all these things can fall into play. Now, but how do you do that with the meager resources the country has? So if we know that we don't have enough resources, Now you talk about recommendations. Now I'm coming up with a recommendation. If we know that we don't have sufficient resources, and we know that we have competing sectors that need even the little resources we have as a country. So what we can do is that we can become intentional and understand that technology is the way to go. It's the world we live in. It can become the backbone of this country. It can become the economic driver of our economy, the drive of our economy. So therefore, we can intentionally invest in education by doing the following. Invest in good internet infrastructure that touches the last mile of this country, right? Once you have internet infrastructure and you have high-speed internet around this country, that means, Dr. Tindyewa, that you can have a model school in every district, the 135 districts. You can have a model school with a digital classroom. Now, a digital classroom, why do I call it a digital classroom? It is, then you can bring in, since we are a bigger population, different investors that are going to invest simply in children's laptops. It's very cheap. If you bring in an investor who is going to embrace the massification production, and then can put, parents can be able to buy a subsidized laptop which is already cheap, and then you have faster internet. Do you know when you build a digital classroom at every district, you're going to hire the best teacher in that district, math teacher, for example. Remember you talked about inclination to science, STEM, yeah, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So you're going to hire the best mathematics teacher in the district, right? You're going to hire the best English teacher in the district, the best science, and the best social studies teacher. And they will teach every class centralized, for example, in the digital classroom. And guess what? Every child scattered around the district can tap into this best teacher content. And then these other teachers we used to have, you can even employ a few and simply now have them as tutors to see, do you have a question that you have not understood from what you have been following? In process, you have provided equitable learning. That's you, one. I finished. Yes, equitable learning. Number two, you have saved money because the teachers you have are too many. You can't pay them decently. You'll have few, pay them greatly. They will do a great job. Equitable education. Sufficient or attractive package for teachers. And now everyone is now embracing technology. Every child. That is the regime of children, the category of children that is growing up in an economy that is embracing imaginative power, technology potential, creativity. And once you have that one in the entire country, it is going to deal with the low productivity labor, low productivity of labor,
yes.
The poor management, population management. Now they are very, very productive. Yes. And now since they are productive, yes, they can contribute to any safety net or social protection. And the country can also tax them because they can create things, they can sell things, they can save things, they can keep money in their pockets. We can become a well-productive country with productive citizens, with an attractive human capital that is the envy of East Africa.
Wow, that's very great. The conceptualization was very important. I was following, and viewers outside there, and maybe we'll have that record very well, how you have conceptualized the recommendation, and making it too practical. Please, it has been very quite interesting, and we appreciate you so much. But
we are not here for theories.
Yes, it was very great. But as we are concluding, please, just say your last word as you say especially in relation
Yes.
to all that indeed relating to Victoria
Thank
University. Please just say in 1 minute.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Yes, 1 minute
Viewers,
just.
when Dr. Tindiewa invites me here, when Smart 24 TV invites me here, I come from somewhere. I come from Victoria University, and I am the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University. Most of the time, we walk the talk. Everything you hear me say here, it is everything we try to do at Victoria University. We are trying to produce a graduate that is not going to become a cost to this country, but someone who adds value to this economy, someone who is trying to create something, someone whose learning involves the head, the heart, and the hands, someone who is not going to have simply who is part of the academic inflation, just demonstrating a transcript full of courses. No, we are trying to produce a graduate with a transcript beyond the transcript of courses, but with a transcript of skills and competencies.
Thank you so much.
So if you have a child,
Yes.
we have an open intake for which starts September. Applications are being received right now. Please entrust us with your education. Let's work together and let's develop this country. We welcome you to Victoria University.
Thank you for coming. Until we see you next time, thank you for being with us on POLICON, and you access, also him on Twitter and also Google, you get the Victoria University. It has been wonderful. Good night until we meet next time of the POLICON. God bless you so much.